Okay.
So just you could just pause for a little bit. I'll wait till the streaming and I'll do my intro and introduce you.
Okay.
And I am going to ask you about this phenomenal dedication to.
So he can make an appearance. He can wave.
Oh
He's
my
ready.
gosh, I would love that. I would love that. Okay, we are live now. Well, welcome to Radical Books and Politics. It is an honor, a tremendous honor to have with us today author Elizabeth Marino, who has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize, which is a phenomenal, just a prestigious award. And I was telling Elizabeth, she is the first female author to be on Radical Books and Politics. So I want to welcome you with the deepest hug. I know these are difficult times, but it's such a blessing to see you. And let me just quickly show you the cover of her new book. It's a poetry book called Asylum, put out by an independent press. And you're going to, Vagabond Press. Where's Vagabond Press out of, Elizabeth?
It's Venice Beach, just outside of Los Angeles.
Fantastic. And I'm going to tell you what, they did a fantastic job with
It's a
this.
radical, it's a revolutionary press.
Wonderful, wonderful. Everything, the artwork, the design, gorgeous. Really,
I
really
took
well done.
I took that cover picture.
I was wondering, this is Chicago. It's this mailbox. It says peace on it. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
Elizabeth,
it's a door. It's a door
oh, you're right.
on Chicago Avenue. I took it with a cell phone. I was living in East Garfield Park,
Mm-hmm.
and I was walking down Chicago Avenue by the dollar store, and there was this door that just kind of jumped out at me with
Right.
don't shoot now, and the stickers on it, and the peace, and
No, I love it.
squat for rent and all that stuff, and
Very Chicago. And this
little.
inspired too. I think it's perfect. So
Yeah.
this is a good segue. Tell us about you, your background, Elizabeth.
I was born in Chicago. I was born in Inglewood, as it turns out.
Hmm.
Um, I was adopted pretty young. I was 17 months. So the first poem, the title poem, Asylum, goes back to that time of being in an orphanage and kind of being put in a little blue boat with with my friend Charlie, and just going through life. I was raised in a you know Italian German ethnic working class family.
Mm-hmm.
I found my birth mother last year. And
Wonderful.
after a whole, like lifetime of being kind of ethnically ambiguous and information that was wrong information at 20, I found out my father was Puerto Rican from Garabo and
Mm,
goes back generations. That if I walk to Garabo, I'll probably bump into 15 million cousins because there are so many generations on both sides
of course.
go back there. And as a husband of a third cousin said, oh, we traced the line back to 15th century Spain. And I'm like, well, what about the Morenos and the,
Of course, of course.
Indios, so talk about that.
You
But,
know.
very Spanish and, with some French and Portuguese, I guess, also for European ancestry, but definitely Moreno and Indio on that side. And then the other side, my mom was born in Alabama, and she's a mixed race person of Black, and she says German, but I trace English. So I'm
Hmm.
about a third or about a quarter English. And I was like shocked and amazed at that. No, not English. But
Hey,
it's like colonial. I looked at this, and my first thing was, well, my ancestors own my ancestors, because
right, right.
about 30% is African.
Well, you never know, Elizabeth. They could have been indentured servants. Nobody said they had to be part of the mercantile class.
Well, it goes back to the earliest West Virginia.
Never mind. They were colonists.
And it goes back to Nigerian ancestry, which like predominantly Nigerian, which was pure, and West African, which is pure slave trade.
Well, that is rich, and I'm
Um,
so glad. I think I saw that sense of struggle in some of your early posts, very early when I first met you. And I think what I told you was you should identify how you want to identify, which is what I tell my students, because that is really your heart's call. But I'm very curious, how did you find your mother?
well, what is it? You got put in a plug. Now it's at $49 for DNA testing. My brother, my half brother, had put his DNA out on ancestry.com. And at 30, he was told that he had a sister out there in the universe. And apparently my mother came back after she put me up for adoption, was told, no, no, no.
She's here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's on the Southwest side in
Wonderful.
Chicago.
We may be neighbors. I live in Canaryville.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too far from that, you know, and so she's been there, but she was a person that was a teacher. She taught at on the army base in Germany. So one good thing that came out of our military occupation and army bases all over the world is I'm here, you know. I wouldn't be. Yeah, it's like, what? Don't close down that Mannheim, you know, because she giggled, and our first conversation on the phone is like, you know, you were conceived in Mannheim, Germany. But she was a woman who had adventures. She had a master's degree. She was teaching. Was a base teacher there, and my father was a military officer in the army, and you know, that was that. And so she was kind of,
Wow. What was
know,
that? The last part? You cut out
she
a
wrote
little.
poetry.
What?
Yes, she taught ESL and, you know, other, you know, English subjects.
Wow, that is amazing.
She's fluent in Spanish.
What about your brother? Does he share qualities with you?
She kind of, my brother said, you know, we looked, and when the first time I saw him was on a Zoom like this, and he was like showing me his face and all this stuff, and his wife was behind him. And it just sort of like the first time I saw like family, you know, I mean, it was like a shock. And he said that I looked a lot like her when he remembers her from younger.
And he has also reached out to her as well, I'm assuming.
Oh, he's stayed in contact with her. Yeah. She was born 5 years before me. And she went with her first marriage.
I see. Wow, Elizabeth. Wow, that is a phenomenal story. So moving. And I'm so glad that you two have reconnected.
Oh, and the family history on both of her sides, they did, you know, research at like Newberry Library. So they traced some of their Indian background to, was it Black Cherokee? Alabama makes sense. It's a Cherokee.
Right, of course.
Black Hawk and Cree on the other side. But, you know, it's just sort of like one of these days I've got to connect with the people doing the family history research.
Maybe even Nigeria. That is wonderful, Elizabeth. What a tremendous story. Does she like your poetry? I probably shouldn't ask that.
So, I mean, I've since known, I mean, over the years, I've known Nigerians who tend to be, I mean, it's most, you know, if you go overseas, you're going to meet Nigerians. If you're in academia,
of course,
or whatever,
graduate students, amazing.
The economic powerhouse of Africa is
sure.
Nigeria. So they're all over, and they're, you know, trying to hit up on the women, and, you know, it's like you run into Nigerian men all the time.
Ironically. I remember there was this beautiful Nigerian man in graduate school who really wanted to hook up with me, but I knew he had many girlfriends on the side. And I hope he's not watching this, because he got one of the graduate students pregnant, and she hated my guts. And I was like, what did I do? I didn't even go have coffee with this guy, but he was so beautiful. And would tell me this horrendous horror stories. Like one time, I guess he took out this gorgeous girl, and he told her specifically, don't order the Barracuda. So she did, and he left her there. And I was like, damn! You know? But he was amazing and a good cook too, you know. Wow. Well, Elizabeth, why don't you share? You have been nominated for a Pulitzer, not a Pulitzer. Whoa, maybe later for a Pushcart Prize. My bad.
Which Pulitzer comes from the other sides, from my partner's family.
Someday. So, could you tell us about the significance of the Pushcart Prize, and also if you could share one poem, your favorite one, if there is a favorite one.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to. The Pushcart basically was started by an major publishing house editor who said that small presses deserve to be recognized. So the Pushcart is nominated by publishers, you know, across the country, and they accept international contributions as well. They kind of like put out the best of their own best. So your own editor and publisher nominates you for a Pushcart. In my case, my editor, Mark Lipman, a wonderful radical man. He's published his own ebook recently on poets as, in
Wonderful.
revolution. Nominated a poem and a memoir piece.
In this collection.
Yeah, so The Direct Velvet Route was the poem, and A Safer Place, about experience with homelessness and dislocation and so forth, was nominated. That piece is going to be a basis for a storytelling piece that I need to develop further. For Ada Chang has a series on of storytelling performances that I'm booked for May.
Fantastic. And you're such a wonderful performer. I was telling I think I was telling the college president, because I teach at Harold Washington College, is that I'm going to interview probably the best performer in Chicago that I've seen. I think you're amazing. So let's hear it. Let's hear a piece.
Now I've got to go talk. My dear, thank you.
You're welcome. I can't raise it any higher than that.
And then she goes, and then she goes, and
your energy is great. I love it. I've never forget that piece you performed. I think one of the reasons your performance is so amazing and genuine is because it doesn't seem forced and it doesn't seem performed. And so I hope my viewers will really enjoy this.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And I just one thing I hate is performers who say, "Oh, I've never studied. I just wake up in the morning and, I look like this and I just
lies.
Yeah, I mean, go get some education, and like I did some performance work, and that pushed me to get acting training, and really study, work on.
I have a speech coach, and I asked the theater faculty for advice, and I practice. I'm not a very good performer. I practice the shit out of my pieces before I step on stage. I have to. I don't have a natural talent for it. I just don't.
And it's if nothing else, it helps get over your nerves.
Oh, of course.
And if you say you give your work off the page to your audience, you've got to that gift has to be out there. It's got to be available. It just can't be in your head. It can't
exactly. Or on the phone. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I gripe about this. I love the rain in summer. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
It is so aggravating. It's not good performance. It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get to a point where you're referring to it, it's one thing. But I mean, I tend to have old lady phones, so if I ever did that and for whatever reason, I don't have a paper, crutch for the poem, I always lose whatever I'm looking at. And then I can't see it. And it's just.
Yep. Same. Yeah, I agree 100%. But that's my one gripe. And, I think if anybody ever did that on my show, I'd be like, bye. See ya. You failed. I'm sorry, continue.
This poem, actually, one thing I didn't put in my book, and I should have, I went to a Chicago Public Library workshop, a one-day thing. Eduardo Arocho was doing this workshop, and he gave us a prompt, and this was a poem that started at that prompt. So Eduardo, thank you.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But he gave us a prompt kind of about place, whatever, and it's called Branches. Fog settled on the pond. Stand still before running on to the boathouse event. Such lovely places here. No need to run so fast. Pop-up tarts, tents, food trucks, folded for evening along the parkways. Every manner of souvenir designed with El Isla Incantante's flag, most handcrafted in China. I was born in Inglewood before we branched into the Humboldt Park and Logan Square and out again. Mi gente in fragments, dreams raised up, so many branches.
Love it. So beautiful and so appropriate for fall. Just amazing. Yeah, I love it. You know, you also have such a fantastic sense of line breaks, which is something I'm still working out. There's just something organically rhythmic about the way you do your line breaks that I love in all your poems. You
Well,
know,
again, it's I'll have to send it to you because I think it's for your more advanced students who don't. Yeah, I have almost no patience in literary theory. I got into this on social media the other day. Um, but this particular piece was by Denise Levertov, and she has a whole essay on line breaks and
I need to read it.
organic.
You
I
know,
mean, one thing that it really kind of opened my eyes, and that I was able to work with Juan Felipe Herrera at a workshop also, and she, he really like takes the heck out of punctuation and
I
all
do
the
too.
prosiness of a
Yep,
poem.
yep. That is one thing because we just put out a charity volume, and
Uh-huh.
my co-poetry editor was Daniel Brooks, as a comrade of mine. He was brutal. Cut, cut, cut. Nope, no, no. But he also has an ear for line break. I don't have it. I write poetry too, but not. I'm working on my craft. You know this. It's a work in progress, and I think that one, I find it extremely admirable that you as a master poet are still taking workshops. And I think writers should never be above learning, should never stop learning from colleagues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't like that arrogant perspective. I appreciate people being confident in their craft and their voice, but not think that they're done learning from others. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
definitely. I mean, I can also would be kind of hypocritical. I spent 23 years in the classroom
Here,
teaching
here.
literature and composition. And, occasionally I did workshops with adults, or I got a grant to do at Northeastern Latino nonfiction
Hmm.
workshop for community. So, I had
You did
everybody.
those workshops, or you took the workshops.
I got a grant, a Hispanic
Amazing,
Serving Institution
amazing.
grant when I was teaching at Northeastern,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
to develop a workshop and then to give the workshop. And
Mm,
my idea was, it would be community based, the community of the campus. So
sure,
the
sure.
teachers can come, students can come, secretaries could come, anybody who had an interest in Latino writers of nonfiction. And, we read essays, it could be from cooking, it could be from, all different kinds of areas. That were, and to produce some material and read it in the workshop form.
Sure. That's amazing. And I'm sure you learned a lot from teaching the workshop.
Oh, definitely. I mean, developing always when you put together a curriculum, you think about it. But the thing about being hypocritical is, it's something I learned also. I taught for 4 years at the Center on Halsted. It's a seniors workshop, LGBTQT
IA,
people,
all that.
seniors. Um, and, but some people became my friends. Including one that just passed
Oh,
last
sorry to
year.
hear that. Sorry
Um,
to hear that.
but you learn from people,
Of course.
and if you're not willing to learn, you don't expand. You only get as
Exactly.
good as
I agree 100%. In fact, I gotta give a shout out to my comrade Matt Cedillo, who, and in fact, I wrote an essay about this, which I published called "I Writer Maria de Estrada." But one of the things he said is that you write towards your own excellence. But the thing I admire about Matt is that he's constantly learning, and
hmm
he's not. I mean, and that I think is a mark of a true. I hate to say him, just someone who really wants to hone their craft, right? I appreciate that very much, and I also think that writers shouldn't be embarrassed to want to take these classes and to want to learn from each other. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I think some, especially emerging writers, are like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it on my own." Like, no, communal writing to me is so much better than being an island. You know this, right? How are you
Yeah.
going to hone your pen if you never share your work? You know what I'm saying? And so
No,
I think that's something for me, as a teacher of creative writing, I try to teach my students to find a community they trust and to never stop learning and never stop writing. So I think that's phenomenal. This I think is a valuable lesson, and I'm definitely going to share with my students what you're talking about right here. You
well,
know?
definitely. In high school, there was was selected to go to a writer's workshop at St. Joe's College in Indiana. I mean, it was like this huge thing to be selected, from your high school, public high school, to go and do this. And one thing I'll never forget is they always say, it's think about your audience, think about who you mean the poem to go out to. It's
Right.
okay if you, and own it, if the only people you want to hear your work are your best friends and your mother.
Right.
Or
That's
you
right.
just
Absolutely
write
right.
it for yourself and put it in a drawer and never see it. That's like
Yep.
one whole kind of writing. Some people take great pride as, oh, I don't write for publication, as if it's something, a badge of honor. I mean, it's just, okay.
Like you're prostituting yourself.
You don't need to be intelligible to anybody else. And one thing I always love in a live reading situation, when people come, it's like, like, I thought poems were this like puzzles, that you had to puzzle. I understand what you're talking about. Like and I'm like, well, of course, that's you mean to communicate something.
Exactly.
Opaque and not, well, then maybe that's what you're writing. I mean,
exactly. And own it. I agree 100%, truly. Do you want to share another piece with us?
Yeah, okay. There was one piece that's my favorite, my sweetie's favorite piece.
Okay, tell us about that sweetie real quick.
He's getting red now. It's called Abundance.
Can I just interject here that the sweetie, the book is dedicated. This is a sweetie, right?
Right.
I love Comrade Chris.
Chris.
From my full heart, por mi corazón, Chris. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I never write specifically love.
Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful to see you. Oh, what an honor.
Oh, likewise.
Yeah, but this wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his love and support.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
And I introduced you to, just for the record. You remember you thanked me that one time at the protest, Chris?
Yeah,
you came up and gave me a big old hug and a kiss because I introduced you guys. I was like, yes! Or said something wonderful about you. I don't remember what. Awesome. Good.
Okay, now you can go.
Love you. Miss you. Did you hear that?
Yeah. He said yes. He says,
wonderful.
Abundance. May your house have more than enough grace to blanket your fears. May joyful abundance plant giddy dances in your heart. And may you extend peace to all comers until the final day of the new year, when you wake sated with new work.
Love it. I think I've heard or read the piece or heard it before. I love that piece because it speaks to what's possible, especially now that people are suffering during this pandemic and the ruling class has taken away CARES funds. This is such a beautiful poem about possibility for me. It's just amazing. This part is one of my favorite lines. And may you extend peace to all comers until the final day. It's amazing. So good, and so timely. I just think it's a wonderful piece. Was this one that was nominated for a Pushcart? Not this one, right?
No, there's another one. It's kind of like one of the more blood and guts one. It's the Direct Velvet Route.
Let's hear that
one. It's something, but I think with your audience, you radical books and politics.
This totally. It's a mix. There's poets, other radical writers. So it's a mix. If you don't mind, I'm gonna turn to the page because I don't actually. What page is that? Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. You perform. You're lovely. Go ahead.
The Direct Velvet Route is on page 36.
Oh, I can't see. My glasses are horrible. I'm like, where's 38? It's a haiku.
Zenny, Zenny to your door. It works if you can.
I'm thinking of that laser surgery. I sure am.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. The Direct Velvet Route. Troops know that the truest way to the enemy's anguish is through the direct velvet route of vagina, mouth, or anus of his wife or daughter, young daughter, preferably in front of him. It's a time-tested war crime that struggles to be named as such. Here at home, the common "I want some of that" muttered from a park bench, or as he gets off a public bus following a young girl. Studies report a child woman's appeal peaks at age 13.
Mm.
My mother once drove over a curb as a man lurched after a neighbor's 13-year-old daughter entering a grocery store. Thick black girl thighs and woman hips. She looks so grown. She must be grown. What child? I want some of this. As pirates cruise the west coast of Africa and desperate parents take small sums to ensure domestic training, a possible life abroad, hope beyond hope, then really do not want to know as the dream ships sail away. On a nice night, it would be good to go out for a walk. I hear my own mother's voice saying, "Don't go, there are bad men out there." A small woman wrapped in a simple green sari has been in the States for 3 weeks. A small, proud smile. "Where is Chicago?" she asks. Security finds her apartment and asks me to see her upstairs to her unlocked apartment. "Life doesn't frighten me," wrote Maya Angelou, "but it does. Truly, it does. The detailed catalogs of violence to girls and women shut us down. There are no longer stages for girls to play at future sexual selves, to flirt in earnest without consequence. Her gaze, direct, sure, and unaffected. Laughter in her eyes. There must be a way to slip our fingers deep into the earth all at once and right its orbit."
Beautiful. I could see why this one is a push cart. It's amazing. And you know what I love about this piece is how you go from talking about issues with, of course, subjectivity of women, here in the States, which I'm assuming is Chicago,
Yeah.
to this global poverty, right? And what families have to do to survive. And because the reality is that even though these families think they're sending their kids to a factory or for work, they're going to end up in a sex trade,
Oh,
and that's I think this is it's powerful without putting it in your face and proselytizing. And that I think is a beautiful balance of poetry that still has a political and the art in it. We have this discussion a lot. I love it. I think it's great. And
it was
yeah.
it was came out twice. It was written for, there was a call for submissions in a group from Jaipur, India, that
Mhm.
I'd been involved with, the writers group. And they had been shocked. Two editors had been shocked. Santosh Bakaya and Lopa Banerjee had been shocked at the sharp rise in assaults to
Mhm.
young women and girls, but also how the local police and the local military had just turned their heads aside. There was a young girl that was like the tipping point.
Yeah, I remember where they had the riots in the streets. Yep.
Body was, there was the bus incident, as well as the young girl was found, group raped and beaten,
And she
and
was this young
and
child too.
was Muslim
Ooh.
child, was found in a temple. And they didn't want to prosecute any of the soldiers involved in it.
So
So, there was just this kind of outrage. So there was an anthology called Muffled Screams released,
mm,
that came out, and this was written for that.
what a
I
great title.
wrote it in my TV room, seniors building. There was an older woman who was literally in a green sari, who we were talking, and I just,
It
something
popped.
came together. The deadline was the next day, so I
Nice.
wrote it on my phone and then sent it to India, and both I got heard the next day. Both editors just said it's like a sock in the gut,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
they're
But
taking
it's
it. And
so
then
so tasteful. Even
Revolutionary Poets Brigade, one of the
yes.
anthologies, it also appeared in that same
Overthrowing Capitalism, one of those.
capitalism.
Yeah, I thought I had read it before. No, I
Yeah.
think it's amazing, and even that line, the velvet root of vagina, mouth, or anus. I think even though clearly this is what somebody who is a rapist or objectifying women will be focusing on, the way it's put out here, to me, it's not a slap in the face. I think this is probably one of the most poetic lines that I've seen using those three words. It's really well done. I think it's beautiful. I really do. There's oh my gosh, there's a quality to your poetry that mixes the painful but with the aesthetically pleasing. And I think this is one of those places. It just really, really well done. But and look, here's the thing though, even though you just wrote it in one day, you're probably thinking about these topics for a long time.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
just something that comes together. Whether you call it an objective correlative or whatever.
Right.
Like all the different pieces. I mean, it's like like thinking about Rosa Parks is as if she invented the civil rights.
Exactly, or just came up with it. Ta-da! Yep.
At the top of her head, she was tired. The kids in Nashville just wanted a burger at Woolworth's.
Yep.
I mean, people were for years, in the movement with the NAACP, or they trained with Reverend Larson and others how to do nonviolent protest and so forth. So they were thinking about it, but then there's an incident that you cannot overlook.
That's right.
And suddenly, things come together and it becomes really clear.
Oh yeah, no, this is beautiful. Mom, I wish you all the best of luck. I have like 3 friends that have been nominated for the Pushcart this year, and I'm like, they all of them, should win.
There are other people.
Oh my gosh! And I didn't realize you could be nominated twice. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
I love that. I think that is so great. We need more and more of this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, this acknowledgement and celebration of poetry in the United States. I think it's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. So happy for you.
Thank you.
Well, I know I said early in the interview before we started, what I know we've given a lot of good writing advice, but what writing advice do you have for new or emerging writers that you wish you had known maybe at the beginning of your career?
Just don't be afraid to put it down. Don't feel proud to put it down and throw it away. Don't hold, I was told, don't, if you love a line, throw it out, which I think is a truism, and sometimes that is useful and sometimes not. Don't be so in love with exactly the way you put it down that you never think about going back with fresh eyes. Read it out loud.
Yes.
It helps if you have a musical background. If you know how to do an instrument, or you sing, or you have a sense of rhythm. I mean, like, it seems like this great puzzle in a class to talk about meter and scansion and all this kind of stuff. But if you think about it in terms of how you open yourself up to music, sometimes you just hear it and the rhythm moves you.
Right.
Sometimes the sound, and with language we have vowels and consonants sounds.
Yes. Oh, that's lovely. I like that.
You hear more the sound of a word. Is it multisyllabic? Was it single word?
Sure.
English comes from such a mix of languages. You have the sounds, and that gives it the possibility of being heard. I mean, it's not only the colonial empire building of English going on, but the idea that it's, and that's one thing that my Indian friends say, that there's a potential for English to be a language that can communicate internationally across languages. I
love that.
Yeah, but just come back to the music of the language, and that's where you get into the line breaks too, where the beat ends.
Oh, I like that. Ooh, I'm gonna steal that or use it. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
I have a book page. And I'll put that in the little chat.
Perfect, and I'll put it on YouTube. So viewers, what a pleasure to have Elizabeth Marino Pushcart nominee twice, who put out this wonderful poetry book called Asylum, put out by an independent press, Vagabond Press, out of California. Highly recommend it. I know the holidays are coming up. Buy it. It's worth it. You know, sometimes I have a little chapbook that I love one poem. You're gonna love all of them, and really recommend it. Elizabeth, it's been a real honor. I certainly hope you come back on our show again. So she put her Instagram handle, which is Elizabeth Marino, and then look her up in Marino Debris. So I'll be putting those on the YouTube so people can link to it and put the Amazon link.
There's an Elizabeth Marino. I mean, there's a brain surgeon, Elizabeth Marino, but there's also Elizabeth Marino who's a cultural anthropologist.
How interesting.
Who does a lot of work on climate change. I mean, a lot of really brilliant work on climate change, and especially with Inuit tribes in Alaska and so forth.
Write a poem for her.
So on Instagram, I need to use my middle initial.
Elizabeth T. Marino. I see it now. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. So that and especially Goodreads. If you read it, please put in Goodreads review.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I have a stack of like 20 books I have to review, but I love reviewing poetry books. They're faster to review, actually. Thank you, Elizabeth. Again, pleasure. I am so grateful. This was amazing. So please, if you like this interview, like and subscribe. I always close out with do what you love to the max. Read as many books as you can, like Asylum, and write on. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you all for watching.
Write and act.
Amen. Write and act. Write and act. I love that one. See you, Elizabeth.